This is a video I didn't want to make. I never saw myself having to make here on YouTube. But unfortunately, in the 3D printing review space, there is an increasing amount of dodgy behind the scenes behavior going on by companies to manipulate reviewers in a way that makes their product look favorable to you, the audience, who I value more than anything. Because like other reviewers here on YouTube, it's my aim when I review a product to give you the full picture, whether it's good or bad or anywhere in between, to inform your purchasing decision. And the sheer act of making this video public means that I'm actually affecting the future of my channel because I'm going to be sent a lot less review units. But here's the thing, I care more about the community than some dodgy company that thinks they can't manipulate me. So let's talk about the 7 deadly sins of 3D printing companies. Now let me be completely clear, I am not attacking one single brand, nor am I attacking one single machine, nor am I even attacking one single source of machines. Yes, it's true that a lot of these low-cost 3D printers come out of China, but I've been at the receiving end of dodgy behavior from companies all around the world that provide 3D printers and 3D printing accessories. So don't go out with your pitchforks and torches attacking one brand or one company that because of what I said in this video, because it's unfortunately so pervasive in the industry that it's a lot of players that are doing this, and I want to put an end to it altogether. And on top of that, if you feel I am attacking you or your company, then maybe you should take a long hard look at yourself and your actions and try to rectify them. But luckily, this is not the norm currently in the industry. I have worked with some fantastic companies over the years, some fantastic individuals in those companies who have taken on sometimes quite harsh criticisms of things I've brought up and then moved forwards to implement changes, and they've done really well as companies. So if you're one of those companies, and you will know who you are if you're watching this video, thank you for doing things right, and you guys really do set the gold standard moving forwards in this industry. I just really hope everyone else can meet your standards one day. So let's start with sin number 1. This idea that a free product sent to a reviewer equals free advertising, and free positive advertising at that. And I can see how this has come about because, for example, you're sending something that may be worth thousands of dollars to someone and they get to keep it. There's this expectation that you'll get free PR out of it, and then therefore the company will sell more products. And often these exchanges are managed by internal marketing teams, but more and more recently, I've noticed that third-party teams are sort of coming in between brands and influencers to send products through, and it's these third-party individuals that are the most aggressive in trying to manipulate the outcome of that review to be positive and in a very, very quick turnaround space of time. Every good reviewer has a set of terms and conditions that they send to the company or the third-party marketing agency before the product is received to outline the guidelines of their review. And for example, Tom has a fantastic one that Naomi has actually translated for companies to use. If you want to go check that out, all the links will be in the description. But we always send out our terms before companies send their products, and we say in them that the review will be as unbiased as possible. I've actually made videos on this in the past, but at least for me, I'll conduct a review as if I am the end user with limited knowledge into 3D printing. Because I'll get out of the box, I'll use a quick start guide to set it up, and I'll start printing. And I judge the machine according to whether it was easy to do, if there was any issues, any quality control problems, and if the print at the end actually looks good and if the machine's reliable. And then I'll make my review and sew it up, edit it, send it out. A good review doesn't just have positives. That's called an advertisement. And that's very different to a unbiased review. Again, everyone has bias, but we try to be as unbiased as possible. But there's this expectation that because you get the product sent to you for free and get to keep it, that the review should be positive and boost the sales from that company, which I'm more than happy to do if the product is good. But at least for me, I always try to have pros and cons in a review, and I leave it up to you, the viewer, to make that choice if you want to purchase a product or not. I'll never just go out and say, buy this product, it's fantastic, because for a lot of people, it won't be. It's only a fit for some people, and it's up to you to make that decision. Sin number 2, pre-orders, Kickstarters, and beta testing units. This is an issue that's been getting worse and worse over time because initially I didn't really have a problem with crowdfunding. Because in my opinion, it's the only way to get some things off the ground where there's a very niche audience and there's a creator that has wonderful ideas but needs that funding to make them happen. So for example, a niche bit of hardware is totally suitable to crowdfunding if it doesn't exist anywhere else and the creator is just an engineer with a fantastic idea. And even if it does fail, it's generally assumed that because someone behind it was working hard, there might be documentation and ideas that can be used further in that line of research. At least that's how I view it. But what crowdfunding's being used for increasingly now is just to boost the launch of a product from a very established company. Again, not naming names, but a lot of the big 3D printing players are using crowdfunding now, even when they could very easily launch a product without it. But why do they use crowdfunding? Well, it's zero risk marketing to them. They can get the money up front and then figure out how to manufacture and source the components for the printers and whatever, and then send them out. And pre-orders are much the same, although in my opinion, less insidious than the crowdfunding, because at least there's a little bit of financial protection there, whereas the crowdfunding, you're basically gambling. There's no protections for your money if you don't get an end product or if it's different to what you expect. But pre-orders and Kickstarters aside, it's the beta testing units that reviewers get sent that I really want to talk about. I was naive, like a lot of people, when this sort of thing started to happen, but now it's very easy to identify. Beta testing units sent to reviewers to boost the popularity of a new product and basically get free marketing are nothing like the backers or the supporters of pre-orders get in the end. At a minimum, they might be hand-assembled and use slightly different components like different linear rail brands, for example, but at its very worst, reviewers get sent units that are completely fake. They're made from scratch to look like a mock-up of the final product if it actually will end up existing, and reviewers are basically used because that review means nothing to what the end product will be. As a reviewer here on YouTube that has talked about products on Kickstarter, it is incredibly difficult not to, because often it's the only way we get access to interesting hardware to show and talk about on the channel. But again, the reviews of that hardware mean very little to the end product unless the company has actually put some serious R&D into it before trying to launch, and that's very rare, sadly. Number 3, quality control and testing on the user. Going back a fair few years, like 2012 and that, you would build a 3D printer from, at best, a kit or just from parts you'd source on the internet. And it was up to you to build a machine that was reliable, didn't have safety issues and all of that. It was really a very much DIY hacky approach to building machines. But when you buy machines ready to run, you kind of expect them to work. However, quality control issues continue to plague, I would like to say, low-cost 3D printers, but I've seen them in machines worth thousands upon thousands of dollars. So why is this a problem? Well, I believe companies operate on an increasingly fast timescale between conceptualization, engineering, production, and then getting the product out there. And the faster that goes through, the less and less they're likely to catch quality control issues. Because the thing with quality control is it costs time and money to do good QC. You need people full-time checking things. You need to do a full burn-in test, for example, with hot ends and that, to make sure the wires don't melt after 100 hours. You need to make sure the fans don't have their bushings fail after 5. Stuff like that needs to be done. However, as machines continue to get cheaper, that profit margin is crushed, and therefore companies rely on quantity, which means the turnaround needs to be much faster, which means the production is crushed, and these quality control issues become more and more dangerous. Thermal runaway is a well-documented dangerous situation with filament-based 3D printers because they use a heat cartridge to melt plastic, and that is regulated with a thermocouple. However, if that thermocouple is disconnected from that cartridge, it can't register the temperature. Therefore, the cartridge would just be told to keep heating and heating and heating, trying to hit that temperature that it never will. And it can get so bad that it can actually cause the whole machine to catch fire. And there's been several documented cases of that. Thermal runaway protection's been available in firmware for several years. However, I continue to run into machines that have it disabled. Having thermal runaway disabled on a 3D printer that you send to an unsuspecting customer is not only a quality control concern, but it's a blatant ignorance to the safety and well-being of people who are buying your products. And often means users have to test for this themselves and then implement firmware changes to fix it, which takes us to the second stage of this section, user testing. So if you have quality control issues or the machine's badly engineered, who is going to fix that? Well, the end user. There's actually a really big divide between people who just want to 3D print and people who want to tinker and improve their 3D printers. And I've often referred to this in the past as wanting a 3D printer as a hobby or a tool. Both are completely valid. But if you buy a 3D printer expecting a tool, and then have to keep tweaking it to make it have better cooling, to make the print surface work better, to make it not lose level after each print, to make sure it doesn't burn up because thermal runaway was disabled. There's some serious concerns and negligence from that company. Which takes us comfortably onto sin number 4, and that is community dependence. Many of these companies rely completely on the communities of people who have bought their machines to keep them running. So if you think with most traditional tech products, you can usually get some support. Now, support might not be fantastic. There's usually like a big sort of checklist or troubleshooting guide. There's usually a number you can call and wait for a while and talk to someone to get it fixed. But with many 3D printing companies, beyond a really basic troubleshooting guide maybe, they often rely completely on their community, Facebook groups, forums, and even comments on YouTube, and people like myself making videos on how to improve and fix existing machines to make them better, safer, more reliable, etc. This even gets to the point where people in the community will write brand new firmware for existing machines. And this benefits the existing company because then more people will see their machines working well and want to buy them. But these people aren't getting paid. They're the community who bought machines to, at least tinker with and have fairly reliable. Why is it up to them to fix the problems of machines that weren't properly engineered? And I know a lot of people don't have any issue with doing this. There is something nice about having a community, but think hard about it. Is it actually okay for a company to wash their hands of support completely and leave it in yours? What if you suggest something to someone as a fix to their machine, and then they end up getting electrocuted because they opened up the mains power supply by accident, or their machine catches fire because they did something wrong in the firmware update you recommended? That's really bad. It's up to the company to make machines that work at least okay and fairly reliably and safely out of the box. Then you might want to, I would say, like remote control cars, add hop-up parts to. Improve them beyond their existing level of already works. That's sort of where I see it being okay, but anything else than that is really, really not. I'm going to have to hold a screwdriver now so I don't flail my hands too much when I get angry, because this section is just gross. Censorship, bribery, and coercion. This is something that goes on largely behind the scenes with 3D printing reviews that don't go the way companies would have hoped, but it also extends to a lot of the tech review genre out there. I've seen it many times from different reviewers who whistleblow about being pressured or even coerced to take a video down or edit it or manipulate it in such a way that a company doesn't look bad. Because when a reviewer is sent a product that is so terrible, so dangerous, with so many issues, we want to warn you as customers, don't buy it. Sometimes products will have a few good features, but there'll just be one underlying flaw, like thermal runaway, for example, that makes us really say, don't buy this printer until the company's fixed it. And a lot of companies do take this feedback on board. When I release a review that may have some negative aspects to it, often the company says, thank you for the feedback, we'll take it back on board, and we'll try to improve for next time. That's the best reaction and response that we can possibly get as reviewers. That means the company's taking it seriously, and hopefully in future they come back to us with an improved version, so we can say to our community, you guys, hey, yes, they did fix things. I love doing that. I'm always okay to give a second chance. But often we get responses like, your review shocked us. It was full of bad, negative words. Please delete the video. Please edit this section out of your video. We'll pay you to alter and re-upload the video. Yes, sadly, this sort of thing really does happen, and it's happened to me a few times on the channel in the past, and it's one of the most stressful things I've ever experienced. I've had companies try to defame me by saying I put out unfair reviews. There's often a response, if it's not as harsh, as extreme as please delete the video, oh my god, we're losing money. It's often, the response is, we've changed things since your review, therefore it's invalid. As if to say the machine they sent to me was garbage and they knew it was garbage, and they've sent it to heaps of other customers, but they've changed it since, probably because a lot of people had issues as well, or maybe they've just changed nothing and they're lying, and therefore my review is invalid and delete the video, or we'll send you extra parts to fix it, therefore make another video. It's not how it works. Unfortunately, if you stand your ground here, it often then descends into attempts of bribery. So companies will try to send you money, or they'll try, for example, I have a Patreon, a lot of creators will have Patreons, they'll pledge at like a $500 level to message you, to try to be buddy-buddy, to sort of get you to sort of softly change your opinion and change things, because negative reviews suck. You end up with a video that's no good for anyone. At least it tells them not to buy a product, for example, but you waste your time because you end up with a machine that's crap, and then the company gets all angry at you and stresses you out, and you're just left in this depressive slump of, why did I bother? And if you're in a vulnerable situation, you might think, well, after all that, $500 would be amazing. At least I can get something for my time and move on. But the thing is, if a company is willing to do this to a reviewer, then who knows what they're doing to the customer? And I always try to keep that in mind. If a company is willing to send me a piece of crap, then what are they sending you if you buy that piece of crap that I was sent? It's probably going to be 10 times worse. The bribery aspect also extends to before the product's even sent. For example, this odd exchange that was sent to me by the 3D printing professor, where he insisted on retaining editorial control, including the type of video he'd make about the product. And then as a response, the company declined the review because they're worried about sales due to unstable video viewing. And companies will often try to position themselves as saying, we want to sponsor your content, but what they actually mean is a paid review. And you just know up front that because there's already been a value exchange, if that product isn't good, you always have to disclose if a video is sponsored anyway, but if a product's bad, it's just going to cause all sorts of problems for you. So that sort of thing I'm very much against. And then there's affiliate links. Now, I've used affiliate links before, fairly sparingly, but only on products I actually think are decent. But if you make a fair video about a product and it isn't very good, and you say that, and then you have affiliate links, well, A, who's going to buy it? And 2, it's kind of a conflict of interest, isn't it? Because you're trying to make money off something, and then therefore, maybe you should butter it up a little bit to make it sound better. Therefore, it's the best printer ever. Therefore, you should buy it with my affiliate link. You can see where things start to get a bit muddy and a bit biased. And again, this is really difficult because content creators don't make a lot of money. As an example, here's a video of one of my more recent reviews with around 80,000 views, which is very high for a regular 3D printing review. And this is how much it made in its lifetime. I don't really generally take sponsored content on of just random brands. If you do, that's totally fine. I don't generally do that. So this video made me this much before tax. And keep in mind the printer costs more than this. So if I had purchased the printer, then I would have lost money. It was sent to me for free, sure, but again, what use do I have for another average 3D printer? So the pressure is on to try to leverage that with affiliate links and such. It's a really, really complicated, multi-layered topic that can get really nasty and then just a little bit sort of, how truthful is it? but I think it's really important that everyone in the community knows that this is the struggle that content creators go through, trying to monetize the content we produce while staying as unbiased and fair as possible. So let's move on to number 6, product lifecycle and market saturation. When I first started reviewing 3D printers, I could review them a year out from when they came out, and that review would stay current for at least another year. These machines were on the market for a long time, and that sort of audience build-up was slow. That meant that a review stayed relevant for a long time, it was worth putting effort in, and you could really properly test things. Nowadays, it's very different. A company will send an early version of a product and expect a review within a week. Maybe they want a live stream within 24 hours. And here's the thing, you cannot test a machine like a 3D printer in a week. I would say at minimum, a month for a proper, in-depth review of a 3D printer, because going back to quality control, some things take a while to break. And you need to make sure those things have had that time to settle in so that you can recommend a product to people that when they get it, because they're not going to be buying a machine and printing 2 benches and saying, yep, it's a fantastic printer. For some people, that is their only printer and they've saved up for months to get it. So when I make a review, I really want to make sure that you're getting the same product as I get. However, with the current life cycle of machines on the market today, often once a month's passed, the machine is out of date. It's either been substantially changed or the company's moved on to another version. And this only confuses and infuriates the entire community, because you want to recommend a machine that's good to people, but then there's this variation, there's this pro version, there's this different size, it's got different things, different control boards, different this and that, and it makes the review you did just worthless. I strongly believe a good company only needs a few good products in each category. For example, a small budget-friendly beginner machine, and then maybe a larger, more pro version, and then maybe a super large, extra fancy, elegant version, whatever. So why do some companies have heaps of versions of what looks like the same thing with just maybe slightly different sizes than that? Well, it's all about market saturation. The more of your brand is on the market, the more it's likely to show up in searches, more likely it's going to dominate. It's like toothpaste in the shopping center. You know, it's all dominated by Colgate because they just have so many variations of what essentially is just toothpaste. 3D printers aren't toothpaste. We don't need tons of variations on the same form factor. Each company should be focusing on one good version of that segment, and then just keep making it. And then finally, the last deadly sin, greed. It is what it is. What it comes down to is companies are sending out machines that are not fit for purpose. Then they are pressuring reviewers to present a artificially positive view of those machines. At best, they might just blacklist you and never send you another machine again. Or at worst, they might try to publicly slander you or invalidate your findings by saying everything's been fixed. But at the end of the day, they want to move units, and the tactics being used are disgusting. And it's just not okay. It doesn't matter if you've got a print farm and you've been printing for years, or you've just gotten your first machine, or you're even just kind of looking, or you've subscribed to my channel because you like my bird videos. It's important that you guys know about this happening, not just in the 3D printing industry, but in the tech industry as a whole. And what we're going to start seeing is as companies blacklist legitimate reviewers because they've spoken their mind and they weren't manipulated, we're going to start seeing paid reviews and paid content that's not disclosed. It's like it looks like a review, but it's going to be very, very scripted, very, very positive with no negatives, and probably trackable links in the description. It's really, really difficult to build credibility and takes an instant to destroy it. So I implore all my fellow creators, if you're pressured to do this kind of thing, and I hope as a community we can come together and stop this where it is right now and bring it back to the fact that independent reviews are the way forwards. Companies can learn from what people have to say about their products instead of trying to suppress it, and companies need to learn that maybe quality control is important. Maybe R&D is important. Maybe they should stop trying to rush products out the door and then punish people when they say they're crap. I just want to take a moment to mention Naomi Wu, Sexy Cyborg. We as a 3D printing community owe so much to her and her efforts in keeping companies straight and keeping them actually accountable for their quality control problems and building better, more reliable, safer products. As I mentioned at the start of the video, she worked on translating Tom's review guidelines, which are fantastic, again, link below, because as a whole, we need to make sure that we nip this in the bud, and she is a fantastic contact we have. And if you did find this video useful, then maybe consider subscribing to Maker's Muse, my aim to empower your creativity through technology. And if you want to help me get the word out about this behavior, please do share it around, because I think it's really important we hold these companies accountable moving forwards. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.